Well, hello, everybody. This is Kim Andersack with the South Carolina Homeschooling Connection. I am the self-appointed busybody of homeschooling in South Carolina and beyond. And so what I do is I collect resources and information that's relevant for homeschoolers in South Carolina. And one of the new resources that I found is Miss Durema and Aaron. They have started a new accountability association. We have accountability associations that offer transcript assistance and help verify that our homeschoolers are doing their records in South Carolina, but they also are offering consulting services for the NCAA. And I am like, let me find out more about this. So I'm so glad for those of you who are able to join us for the recording of this workshop session. And for those of you who are watching the replay, there will be links for you to be able to reach out to them and ask questions afterwards as well. So I'm going to turn it right over to them and get us started.
Thank you, Kim. I'm Durema Berry, and I homeschool in the state of South Carolina in the upper part of the state, what they call upstate. I'm near Clemson University. I have 6 children, and we began our homeschooling journey with child number 1. She started homeschooling in 5th grade and was a swimmer and an elite academic, a great swimmer, elite academic. But long story short, she ended up swimming for the University of Alabama. And that's where we began to interact with NCAA and learned how to do a transcript. Actually, she did the first transcript. My next child ended up running for Wake Forest University, has just graduated from there. So again, that's our second time through NCAA. My third child started the NCAA eligibility path and ended up being a manager for the basketball team at Clemson. And then I have child number 4 going to Clemson, and we'll see if she needs that NCAA eligibility. I love homeschooling. We obviously love sports, and we know that in order to do those 2 well, we have to document things. I'll let you introduce yourself, Erin.
I'm Erin Dial, and I'm also from the upstate of South Carolina. I just finished my 8th year of homeschooling. I have 3 boys, all very active and very involved in sports. My oldest just graduated, and I just walked through the NCAA process with him, and he will be swimming in the fall at Converse University. So I just finished this process and am quite familiar. So I'm hoping to offer some assistance with that.
All right, I'm going to share a screen with you guys, and this just begins our PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to skip over the first screen. The second screen is about us, about Erin and I. And our third screen is about why do we need to worry about NCAA athletics. And I'm going to give us a disclaimer that we are experienced with NCAA, but I won't say that we are experts. We know a lot, and we like to help families do this. But whatever we have written on this screen is also likely to change via NCAA in another year or 2 years. It is a constantly evolving program when it comes to homeschoolers. The public school kind of stays static, but the public school, as we grow in popularity and our methods, as new programs pop up, then NCAA is creating new ways of managing us and making sure that our information gets documented and our kids are approved. So oftentimes homeschoolers feel like we are being subjected to unfair regulation and unfair tactics and unfair assessments by NCAA. And I want all of us to recognize we have the same rules that public schoolers have. The difference is that public schoolers have submitted courses up front and have gotten their courses pre-approved. As you know, in our growing homeschool economy and industry, that there are companies who have pre-submitted NCAA courses, but for the many of us, we're still just homeschooling the way we always have. And because of that, we need to do just a little extra work in our record keeping and documenting the schooling that we're already doing well. NCAA wants to make sure that they have student athletes. They don't want athletes going to college to run, perform, and now they can make money. and they're not able to do the student part. And that's why we have to, all we're doing is demonstrating that our kids are students and can be successful in college and also be an athlete. And that's why NCAA has us hop through these hoops. So one of the first things that I wanted to make sure that everyone understands is NCAA is looking for one big thing, and that is core courses. They're looking for 16 core courses that are completed during a student's 4 years of high school. Later, we'll talk about a transcript a little bit, but the big thing on the transcript that helps you document this is where you've put down that you began ninth grade, whatever year that is, and you finished high school in 4 years, or you finished these 16 courses in 4 years. So our 16 courses are your English, math, lab sciences, social studies, foreign language, and then they love to put in that comparative religion or philosophy. So as homeschoolers, many Christian homeschool families will put Bible or New Testament survey. That's not going to be a homeschooling core course for NCAA. Now, we know we're okay with those courses. That might make a great social studies course, but it's not going to fall in the social studies course for NCAA. It's got to be a comparative religion course. So great. Did you compare Christianity with other religions? I think you can write those up and get those through to NCAA, but not just a New Testament or an Old Testament survey. NCAA doesn't love courses in non-core areas. They won't accept typing, driver's ed, home ec, welding. Even if it's done at a dual credit, like we have a lot of dual credit students in the state of South Carolina that will go and get a welding certificate or certified nursing, that's not going to count towards a core course. Now, the biology that the certified nursing assistant might have to take at a college level, that would count as a core course. They don't count personal finance. Sad to state of South Carolina, we just implemented that, or we didn't, but they did. Art, music, they don't take courses that are below grade level. I hear a lot, and I'm sure any other homeschool administrator also hears the same thing, like how can we get our chemistry in when I have a kid that just cannot pass normal, like apology of chemistry, and they're using a lower level chemistry that we would see most of the time in a middle school. That's not what NCAA is looking for. Now, on top of the 16 core courses that you need, there's a rule called 10-7. And the 10-7 means that you need 7 of the core courses in English, math, or science completed in a 10 that's completed before the start of the senior year. I don't know if that makes sense. So in your freshman, sophomore, and junior year, the student athlete needs to document 10 core courses. And 7 of those need to be in English, math, and science. You can do the next 6 of your 16 core courses your senior year. And this is NCAA, I put their slide on here. It's so that students are progressing towards graduation and that they're in the best position to meet the rigors of Division I athletics and academics. And that 10-7 rule gets thrown around a lot. And that means that you probably have taken math, science, English every single year, your freshman year, your sophomore year, your junior year, and that's complying with state law anyways as a homeschooler. And if you're not in South Carolina, it's complying with best practice. So you need to take that Algebra 1, Algebra 2, geometry, and your next math. Many homeschoolers will start taking core courses. Sometimes, I won't say many, but some will start taking those core courses in 8th grade, and that is fine. You put that on your transcript. Those 8th grade courses can go towards this 10-7, but you don't document them in 9th grade. You put them in 8th grade, and we just know that you started those a little bit sooner. Or NCAA will know that you started those a little bit sooner. That's a really common practice. Do y'all have any questions about 10-7 rule? Okay. The next slide I want to talk about, and this is where we get into the nuances of homeschooling. NCAA will consistently tell you there is no pre-approved homeschool curriculum. So they're going to tell you that Apologia is not pre-approved or Saxon Math is not pre-approved. When I go as a homeschool mom, purchase it off the shelf, break it open in my living room, and start teaching it to my child. So we have the opportunity to write up a core course worksheet, which Erin Dial is going to demonstrate in just a minute. But when parents are thinking about homeschooling, I also hate it when I see, like, I have to find an approved course somewhere, which means your child's in front of a computer in all likelihood, being taught by an expensive instructor on the other side of that computer. We can homeschool our children at home with real textbooks and get it all approved. There are many, many, many of us who have done that. To get those courses approved, I highly suggest that you have a textbook spine. So if you're going to build your literature, I know Classical Conversations likes to build from it. They do their English is really from a whole book study, but they use Lost Tools of Writing as their composition spine. Or they use their self-published, American literature. That's also a spine. It helps you as a parent to write up or document your homeschooling. If you can use a spine book, a textbook that has a scope and sequence in the front of the book and the table of contents that you can then kind of use as a skeleton. We don't have to die to this curriculum, but it does help you document kind of a skeleton approach or a logical approach to teaching a course, if that makes sense. If you use a spine, which we highly encourage that you do, make sure you write up at least a simple version of a syllabus. If you start teaching English to your child, your son or daughter athlete in 9th grade, and you call it English 1 on the transcript, and then as a 12th grader, you're like, oh my gosh, I have to do NCAA eligibility. It's really handy if you can go back and pull a syllabus or something that you use to document your high school curriculum. I highly encourage, do some type of curriculum map or a simple syllabus and file it away on your computer or print it out and put it in your child's notebook. In South Carolina, we're supposed to keep I just lost the word. What's
Portfolio.
the word? We're supposed. Thank you. We're supposed to keep a portfolio. So I encourage all my families to, when they put in their attendance and they put in their progress report, put in your syllabus. That way they're there. And on your syllabus, make sure you put the textbook that you used. You want the right edition of that textbook. We all know that textbooks change edition, particularly the companies that have been around for a long time. And so you want the most up-to-date, whatever your child used, not necessarily the most up-to-date. And I'll give you a reason why I'm big on this syllabi, trying to keep those, just some kind of documentation. But my daughter was a great academic. She decided she was going to go to Clemson University and not swim in college and just swim on the club team. And the University of Alabama emailed us in May of her senior year and said, hey, we'll give you so much money to come here on academics. She then emailed the swim coach, and we were checking her email, by the way. I'm a big proponent of parent involvement and checking your child's email because she didn't see that email from Alabama. So anyway, so we encouraged her to reach out to the swim coach. She sent the swim coach an email and said, University of Alabama has offered me this much money to come here, and I might consider applying to Alabama if I could swim. The swim coach called her and then said, go ahead and apply. And he said, I'll do some homework on you. And she jumped on the application for Alabama. She submitted that. The University of Alabama did indeed invite her to come and swim. And so thankfully I had not signed up to teach Vacation Bible School. I spent that whole week doing core course worksheets and getting all of our paperwork done for NCAA eligibility. And I had enough information saved on my computer where I could go back and identify, okay, we used Apologia here. We use Saxon here. We use Lost Tools of Writing here. And I could go back and pull together the spine and the information that I needed to demonstrate the good education that I knew I had given. But I was able to put the book numbers, the ISBN numbers, and I did use Amazon a little bit to help because some of those textbooks I didn't save. But I did have enough information to pull from different internet resources and find the exact textbook that I used, the information in that textbook that I needed to complete that core course worksheet. Now, another thing that a lot of us do, myself included, I teach at a co-op, I teach at Seneca Classical, Erin Dial teaches at Seneca Classical. Even though my child is at Seneca Classical, like Erin Dial taught his Algebra 1, if I were to fill out a core course worksheet on my son in Algebra 1, I would not put Erin Dial as the main teacher, because in the state of South Carolina, I have that role. I'm that job. Erin is a tool that I have hired to help me execute this course. So Erin could be the second teacher on the core course worksheet, but I encourage homeschooling parents, don't give that ownership away, because if your program or your purchased program online or in person, if they don't follow through with their information, or they don't do the paperwork they need to stay at whatever level they say they're at, it falls back on you and it creates a mess that you cannot clean up. If you put another program on your core course worksheet and that course isn't NCAA approved, you're really at a loss. So personally, as a parent, I have maintained control over the grading and the assessment. Now, I let Erin grade all of my child's work happily, and I accept her grade, but it has to come to me to go on his transcript. So that's where I'm still maintaining ownership of my child's homeschool education. Erin is a tool that I've decided to hire to help with my Algebra 1. So I've always put me as the primary teacher, and many times I will put a secondary teacher. Like if you have a fabulous classical conversations tutor, you know, put that in there. Or if you're at a co-op and another mom's teaching and she's credentialed, like we have a teacher that's got her master's in English and taught for Clemson. Sure, I'll put that person as the secondary teacher. The other thing I want to mention is whatever programs you use that are not yours, like if you use Virtual SC in the state of South Carolina, forgive me, North Carolina folks, I don't know what your equivalent to that would be, but in the state of South Carolina, the South Carolina Department of Education has an online program where we can take a la carte classes. If you use that and you take a core course, you can request your transcript to be sent from Virtual SC to NCAA. If you take a class at your community college, Tri-County Tech is ours that's near here, we would request, or I requested, that transcript be sent to NCAA. However, the one thing, it has to match your transcript. So if I say that my child took English 1013 at Southern Wesleyan University as a dual credit student, my homeschool transcript says English 1013 and has a star on it that indicates that it was taken as a dual credit course, so that when NCAA gets the proof from Southern Wesleyan and then gets my transcript, they can match them up. I don't have to write core course worksheets on those courses. Yay. That's a little bit less paperwork on me, but I do have to document it, and it has to match my transcript. So whatever we take outside of our home, whatever I contract out, I do have to document on my transcript, and it needs to be taken at the same date. The dates have to match. That's really important. It's that documenting, and you don't have to write it all down right now, but do just save all the documents. So if you're on your community college and their official transcript that you get from them says an A, you need to have an A on your transcript, you know, and it needs to say 2023 school year, 2023 school year, fall, and it needs to have the same course name so that NCAA can match those up. And I would assume if you bought classes from Liberty University, if you know that you're getting a course that is NCAA approved, then you would have Liberty send that transcript, and you would have that indicated properly on your home transcript. Any questions about that you all want to ask? I don't want to plow through it and make you wait if you've got something pressing that you wanted to ask.
I don't see any
Well,
questions.
can you clarify? Oh, I'm sorry.
I just was gonna say, I don't see any in the chat. So, yeah, shout out.
On the second point of using online self-paced, you must demonstrate teacher involvement. So does that mean you yourself, I mean, you're involved as the teacher, even though the child is taking an online, or?
If it's an online self-paced course, you're going to need to demonstrate teacher interaction. Now, many courses
With-
today that we do online have, like, I can do a synchronous live virtual course, if that makes sense. So my child has to sit in front of the cloud. Like if we do just Mr. D's math, you know, you're going to sit in front of the computer for a live class interaction. Okay. So that would demonstrate teacher interaction. You know, if you were to do self-paced Veritas Omnibus, okay.
Right.
You as a parent have to be able to document how are you involved. You know, you were meeting and you were checking those assessments behind them, something. You've just
Right.
have to
So
have
you are the
touch.
teacher still in that case, is what I'm making sure. You can't
Yes.
demonstrate that the Veritas person, because you're wanting, you're maintaining control. Okay, just want to make sure that was,
Yeah,
we were thinking the same.
exactly. Now that would be different if I was enrolling my child in that omnibus live course. Well, then the teacher interaction is automatically built in.
Right, but they
it's-
would provide some sort of transcript from that, right?
I think so.
Okay,
I mean,
I don't have experience.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've done Veritas. But I would assume that their academy has their list of NCAA approved courses. And you always want to check, you know, I would not enroll in like Omnibus 1 and then assume that their next level was also approved. You need to check it on the NCAA website yearly. Because again, if you go and enroll in like Wilson Hill Academy or some other academy that provides like full curriculums to homeschoolers, you as a homeschooling parent, we're responsible for making sure that is a current NCAA approved course. And because I've followed NCAA stuff, I'm sure you're seeing that there's homeschool parents where, oh my gosh, this program closed. Okay, well, you're out of luck. I mean, that's hard. I thought I signed my child up for 6 NCAA approved course. We wasted our whole freshman year. It's hard to recoup that. And so that's why I kind of I definitely lean towards where I can maintain that control and authority as a homeschool parent than I do. Unless I know for sure I'm with a solid company that is definitely, if I can't teach that NCAA approved course and I feel the need that I've got to buy it from somewhere else, do your homework, make sure it's currently NCAA approved, because that company has to do paperwork to keep it NCAA approved.
Okay.
And it's not hard. What they're doing is writing their own version of a core course worksheet. You know, it's not hard, but if you don't do that, then you're in a position of retaking courses or figuring out very creative ways of documenting what was taught by somebody else and you somehow claiming it. And that's hard. That's
Thank
hard.
you.
No, thank you. That's a great question. I didn't even mention that part of it, but because we know right now the market is, I won't say it's saturated with opportunities for us, but there are a lot of opportunities for homeschoolers and they're all not equal academically, you know, because we can't lose sight of we're preparing students to go to college and to be student athletes. It's highly unfair to push my child through all this athletic training and not focus on the academics, because then they won't be prepared.
May I ask a question about the core courses?
Yes, ma'am.
You said that we need 16 core courses and then you listed English, math, science, foreign language. Is there social studies as an option or how do I?
Yes. Social studies and comparative religion. And yes.
Okay. Because I'm like, if I have English, math, science, and foreign language, at this point, he's not planning to take 4 years of foreign language.
Right. No, I'm sorry. I just spoke fast. It's on the slide, but yes, social studies, science, all those cores, you know.
Thank you. Yes, that clarifies. Thank you.
Yes. And the fun part is if you're educating your child, like really not cutting corners, like you're educating, not dying to curriculum, but educating, you're going to have all of that.
Yes.
Where I find people make their mistakes is they don't remember what they taught, you know? And if can I tell one more story, Erin, is that okay? Tell one more. So I had a parent contact me whose child was in college and she had homeschooled a whole bunch of children, and he made the football team at the end of his freshman year, and he had been homeschooled. They had to go back and create his whole entire academic career.
Mhm.
And they had on his transcript, it was either 9th grade history or high school 1 history. And I was like, okay, what was that? Was that ancient? They told me they did sunlight this year and that year, but like, what did you do that year? What did you do that 9th grade year? And they couldn't remember. That we just don't want people to be in that position, because I know that family educated well. They had a kid that already completed his freshman year of college. That mama did a great job, but with a whole bunch of children, that random course, it's like, oh boy, what was that? So just keep your paperwork in order. I'm going to pass it over to Erin, and she is going to talk to you about core course worksheets.
Okay, so the first step after you establish your account is you want to fill out an administrator accordance statement. And I'm going to show you what that looks like.
And you can establish your account in 9th grade, 10th grade, or 11th grade. NCAA encourages that you do that as a 9th grader if you think you're on an athletic college path.
So the purpose of this statement is to say that who is the homeschooler administrator. So you would fill out this form. And what I love about these forms is you can fill them all in digitally and then save them. So you'd fill in your student name. You would have to give their NCAA ID. And then here when it says I administered the homeschool program in the following ways, I clicked all of these because you had part intake, teaching the courses, evaluating the coursework, awarding the grades and credits, as well as managing the homeschool program. And then let me see if I can scroll down, sorry. So then you're signing off. Actually, when I first filled it out, I forgot to say that I was the parent, which was kind of funny, but they reached out to me and all I had to do is resend it in. But this also is just saying if you, which years and which grades that your student was a homeschooler. My child, he actually did all 4 years, so I was able to check all of those boxes. And then here, what is the start date of his 9th grade year? That's a very important date for NCAA. And then you would just print it and print your name and sign it. And you're going to email all of your forms to this ecprocessing@ncaa.org. Okay. They will not respond to any emails there. It's just a way that they take in their all of your forms. So this is the first step in establishing that you are the legal homeschool administrator. Any questions about that?
If you fill
I
out,
have one question.
oh, is
Go
that,
ahead, Kim.
yeah, I was going to read Kristen's comment. Is that you?
No, you go ahead.
Okay, so there's a question in the chat box. If you fill out the form in 9th grade, do you check all 4 grade level boxes then?
No, I would not check. I would just check that year. They might have you redo the form. I did not have that process because my personal experience was I did all of his information and all of his forms in his senior year, which I do not recommend, but that's what I did. And so I checked all the boxes. So I would just go ahead and only the years that you have
Correct.
homeschooled.
So if you look on the NCAA website, they tell you to submit all your forms at the end of the 11th grade year. And then in the next sentence, they tell you, but you also can submit them at the end of every year. And if you submit them at the end of 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, you have to submit an updated homeschool transcript at the end of every one of those years. Both Erin and Erin waited until this semester. Well, this year she did hers this year. I did my firstborn at the end of her senior year in May. Actually, it was June. But then my second, she was an early qualifier in July. And I don't see any reason to submit the paperwork before the beginning of their junior year, because a coach is not going to put you on a list so that NCAA to review you. I do highly encourage you to register with NCAA as a 9th grader and go ahead. If you think you've got an athlete, do that paid registration. And that's fine. There's a free and a paid, but you register as a 9th grader. But I didn't submit any paperwork before the 9th grade before the 11th grade on either one of mine, or all 4 of mine, actually. Because their paperwork changes. And so you want to have all this information set aside, and then boom, boom, boom. And the other thing you don't know is what happens if you've got a child who, say, did Algebra 1 as an 8th grader, Algebra 2 as a 9th grader, Geometry as a 10th grader, your 11th grade year, let's say you did 15 hours of college credit, right? Well, that's 5 core courses that you don't have to write up. And so if you do all your paperwork, you like write up all those 9th grade courses and write up all those 10th grade courses, and then your child did Spanish 1, Spanish 2 dual credit, History 1, History 2 dual credit, English 1, English 2 dual credit, and a math, well, that saves you a whole bunch of writing. So, Erin, I have one question for you.
Yes.
When you did your signature, did you print this form out, sign it, or did you apply a digital signature?
I applied a digital signature through Adobe. But the big thing about signature, it has to be the same signature. So it couldn't just be like a script that you could add as your signature. You really need to have, I did my signature on a tablet and then was able to attach it and save it in Adobe. Okay, any other questions about the homeschool administrator? All right, then let's move into a core course worksheet. So again, the form, all of these purple boxes you can fill in online. This is just the core course worksheet that I downloaded from NCAA. And you would fill in your student name, your NCAA ID, your course name, and then this is your grade and year taken. If I were to do it again, I would recommend doing this year by year. And the reason why is I discovered it was a little bit easier to go ahead and put my son's name in, save this core course worksheet, and then just reopen it for each course that I needed to complete. So it just saved a little bit of an extra step and not having to fill in this information. But one thing I did discover is if you save this with the signature attached, then you cannot go back and fill in the information. It locks the boxes down for some reason. It might just be an Adobe thing, but I couldn't go back. So I saved it without the signature and just wait until I've filled in all the correct information and then go back and save it. Okay, so this will just give you a little bit. So this shows you kind of what I saved. So just his name, their ID. This is why I was talking about doing it all in one year. So you just have 11th grade year, your 12th grade year, whatever that is. You're going then to need to select the subject area for whichever course it is. Again, I did not teach my son all of the content in person, but I was always the teacher of record. Now, if you had a hybrid school or another teacher, this is the place that you would add that information in, is where it says other teacher. A grade based on, they want a breakdown of not a grading scale, but where you came up with that grade. This information came directly from the syllabus that we had for the course. And then the rest of the information, prereq. So say this was a pre-calculus course. You're going to have an Algebra 1, Algebra 2 prerequisite for that. You would just fill in that information. And this is where and the text used would be where you would enter in your spine. Curriculum provider and designer. That's just the name of the book and who wrote the book.
So like an example would be for mine, I put Apologia,
Mhm.
you know, that's who designed it. And then, yeah, or Saxon Math, or in our math at our co-op, we use All Things Algebra.
Yes. Let me show you. And speaking of, here we go. I'll show you an actual course. Okay, so this is the course for geometry with math. This would be the parent teacher record, the hybrid teacher record. So this is the teacher that, as we were talking about earlier at SCA, that would be that teacher. This is geometry has a prereq of Algebra 1. And then like Durema was just talking about, all things algebra, geometry, and then the creator and the designer of and then course description. So course description here, this was copied straight from a syllabus, but often is found on a website, describing the curriculum. A lot of that information come there. You can find this on wherever you purchase. So if you purchase on
Amazon.
I'm sorry?
Amazon.
Wherever. Yes, you're exactly right. You can just cut and paste. And all of this was I just highlight, cut and paste. Sometimes you have to adjust the spacing a little bit, but I didn't have to recreate it.
Mhm.
And then down here, course content goals outlines. These are just topics, but I often have used just the table of contents. Sometimes if the table of contents is too involved, then you'll have to abbreviate a little bit because your font gets really, really tiny the more you add in. But this is basically what the table of contents is. Then types of assessment used. This just back to how you're getting your grades. And then assessments designed and developed by. We always use the All Things Algebra designed assessment. So that's what I included here. And then the assessments graded by. I think it's important here that you also put the parent as well as the hybrid teacher or the additional teacher here. And then you would just move on to grade achieved, credit earned. This is your name as the parent, sign and date. And then once you save this and you fill it all in, that you would also send it again to that same email address. And you can pull back up. I often have pulled back up the email, making sure that I send everything, because NCAA doesn't really communicate with you on a regular basis. They don't let you know that they've received something. They only let you know if you're missing something or you did something incorrect. So just, late in the senior year, I was panicking a little bit, making sure I got everything to them. So I would pull back up that sent email and make sure that I had it. Now, Durema did speak earlier about transcripts from additional, like virtual SC in South Carolina, as well as Tri-County. I just requested all of the official transcripts from those universities and the virtual SC, and I sent them myself. You can send them directly to NCAA. That is absolutely okay, but I sent them all through the same email through this EC processing. All right. Do we have any questions about core course worksheets?
Yeah, I have a question. So I had seen on the NCAA website where you can look up approved schools and courses that there were some homeschool curriculums on there. And would any of those be like a pre-recorded type lecture to go with the class? Because some of them claim to be like on your own time. So I'm not sure, like, because I've heard that pre-recorded lectures can be an issue.
If they are offering a pre-approved NCAA course and you are paying for that course and you can look on there that it's good, you know, like it's 22 or 2024, 2025 school year, then you should be okay. And what will
Okay.
happen is you treat it kind of like the way you would treat virtual SC or your tri-county or your dual, excuse me, I keep saying tri-county because that's where we live, but your community college course that you might take as hybrid asynchronous. You know, if you're taking that community college course and it's asynchronous, it oftentimes is a pre-recorded lecture. And so you would list that on your NCAA account as a course or institution, a school where your child took a course. And then that institution will send their transcript or their record of progress and report to the NCAA, or you can print it out and send it as officially too from that institution.
Okay, yeah, instead of the core course worksheet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, you would not fill out a core course worksheet on a course that you purchased, assuming it really is NCAA approved, if that makes sense.
Yes, that does make sense. Yeah, and your note to check the school year is huge, I think, because it could be you're looking this early and it's still on last school year.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of those programs have been around forever, you know, so I think I worry with right now, there are so many new methods, you know, and we don't know how NCAA is going to interpret some of these new, particularly like the super fast paced, I'm going to get a bunch of dual credits in 7 weeks. Like, okay. I mean, if it sounds too good to be true, it might be. So, you know, I mean, just as far as documenting and be able to say my child really showed rigor and did their job academically to master the subjects that were in front of them.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Welcome. So I think I take this back. And I think that was, those are all of our big points for the presentation. I just want you to know that if you start submitting your paperwork as a 9th grader and a 10th grader and 11th grader, NCAA will not review your child's account until they are put on an institution's list, until they get this IRL, you know, a coach, anybody a coach is recruiting, they're going to put on their list, and then that will prompt NCAA to process your child's paperwork.
And the coaches aren't allowed to reach out to you until 11th grade. That's probably why they're not looking at it until then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I know as homeschoolers, we like to get ahead of the game, many of us, and like, let's get all this paperwork done. Let's get all this paperwork done. But if I had done it earlier, and I knew my child wanted to swim in college, I knew my child wanted to do track in college, but you don't really know. There's like 1 out of 1,000 that really know. Like in our program, in our hybrid program, we have a lot of athletes that would love to play college something, but we really only have one that we know for sure. And when he was a 9th grader, we knew for sure because colleges had already gotten verbal commitments before some of the rules changed. And, you know, Lord willing, that child will stay healthy and be able to compete, but only God numbers our days and knows exactly what that plan is. So our best advice is do your paperwork, keep track of everything that your student did, and then submit it when you know that you need it. You know, Erin, is that fair? Would you say that?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Because with my student, my firstborn, she did so many dual credit classes. I didn't have to do hardly anything as far as core. I think I wrote up 8 core course worksheets on her because she did so many dual credits in her last couple of years.
Well, and that was kind of my experience as well. I mean, my son, when he was deciding to swim, he was down to D3 schools and D2 schools. Well, D3 schools, you don't have to go through this process. So I was kind of holding out like, do I really need to do this? So, and that's why I delayed. but I was thankful that I did have all the information, and I do not recommend. I recommend starting definitely by your junior year.
Mhm.
I will mention, I had a student run for an NAIA school, and you also don't have to do this, but
Right.
the only thing that they use for homeschool eligibility is test scores. So he actually had horrible test scores, and we got a waiver
Wow.
so that he was allowed and to be eligible. But that was a little dicey. So
Yeah, you can't get away from educating your child well. I mean, that's just that no matter what approach you take,
Yeah.
you can't get away from doing the foundations well, you know. Erin, will you speak to your experience with SAT scores since it was just brought up?
Yes. So I did not have to submit SAT scores for Davis. They have temporarily, or I don't know if it's temporary or not, but as of right now, you do not have to submit any SAT or ACT test scores for NCAA eligibility. That could change. But at this time, my son did not have to. He took them, so we had them, but they never requested them, and it was not a requirement.
But it was required for his scholarship for the state
Absolutely.
of South Carolina.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And college admission sometimes requires that anyway.
Exactly.
yeah, well, that my son was at Montreat, and he did not need test scores to get in. Of course, it was 2021. He didn't need test scores to get in anywhere because they waived them that year. But he's special needs, and he was one who I had not intended. I had no plan on him going to college, and then we managed to get him 2 years at Montreat, and it worked out wonderfully. But would not recommend that path. And I do have one daughter that's taking a gap year. That's a question that I have. So you had someone who completed or you know of someone who did a whole year of college, and they still then had to go back. I thought that maybe after a year of college, they'd say, oh, well, you've proven yourself, you are capable. You still had to go back. Okay, well, that's good to know, because maybe I should pull my daughter's stuff together. She's taking a gap year. She doesn't really want to run, but it could, if that was the only way she could go, then maybe she.
Yeah, and with track, you can keep competing after high school. You can do USA track and field, AAU until they're 18, and you can still be unattached, compete as an unattached athlete and log those times in and impress the heck out of some coaches. Yes, but yes, a year, and I can't remember the young lady's name, but years ago there was a homeschooler, was a pole vaulter at Winthrop, and she never was able to pole vault in college. And she was an Olympic. I mean, she went to Olympic trials as a pole vaulter, but never could pole vault in college because she could not get that NCAA eligibility.
Wow.
NCAA eligibility. Yeah. And
All
it's
right.
sad.
Well, maybe I have a summer project. No, the reason I do also have a 7th grader. And so I was like, well, I am doing course descriptions and making sure I have all those ducks in a row for him. But okay. Thank you.
And most of the things on the core course worksheet are really easily found by, like Erin said, if you pull up Amazon for Apologia Biology, there's a course description. Just make sure you choose the edition that your child used. If they used edition 2 versus the newer edition 3. Yeah, most of it is out there. And I think, Erin, when you showed your core course worksheet, you seem to indicate that you use the same type of grading method, 25% homework, quizzes, test grades. You just kind of you use a similar structure.
Well, that was for mainly math classes and such. I mean, it would be slightly different if it was an English class. But yes, for the most part, most of our math courses are similar and keep the same structure.
Yeah. That's helpful, because I kind of do for my English course, I do 50% major, 50% minor. So 50% are all the final papers, and the minor grades are the outlines and research and presentations or whatever.
Right. But it's just translating what you've actually accomplished and being able to put it on paper in a way. And that's probably what tripped up the person that you mentioned, not that she didn't actually have, it's just the ability to put it into the
Yeah.
terminology that says what you've actually done and translated in those kinds of terms. And that's all they're asking us to do is show that. So.
Yeah, you're right.
And that's
You're right.
part of what you can, your services can assist people with, is kind of coaching them through that kind of, what do I say? How do I say this? And yeah.
And then we also, many accountability groups in the state of South Carolina, like Kim's, they do transcripts in-house.
Yep.
Our accountability group does transcripts in-house, but we also, Pathway does transcripts for other people in other accountability groups that don't do them, or in other states that, like I did this, the person that called me whose son all of a sudden made the football team, you know, we did his transcript for him using the grading scale that they use in that state, where really it was nothing. That state didn't even have a required grading scale.
Yep.
So South Carolina, we do have some hoops, like you mentioned, but they're good ones. They're good ones. We know what grading scale we use, you know?
Right. We want the same opportunities for our students. And so just being able to translate their actual abilities and accomplishments into, you know, the wording and the format that is understood, so that the doors of opportunity open. The goal is not to just arbitrarily inflate it. It doesn't do any good for us to say that, you know, they should have gone to, you know, Harvard or MIT or something. Yeah. You know, it's all honors, it's all 100. No. That's, we just need an accurate academic record that shows that they can be successful as a student in college. That's the whole point.
Right.
Academic
Because
eligibility.
The NCAA believes that if you have a 2.3 unweighted GPA in high school, you might be able to be successful in college, a 2.3 on a 4.0 scale. The other thing that NCAA does is when they get our transcript, like in South Carolina, we do weighted scale. We have college prep weighting, honors weighting, AP, dual credit weighting. The NCAA puts it all back into a formula. They reconvert it to a 4.0 scale. So they don't care that it's an honors course. You know, they're not worried that you did honors work. They're not going to ask you your papers. They care, did your child complete a college prep biology? Did they do it? Did they do it well? And then they'll convert it into their 4.0 scale, and you need to have a minimum GPA of a 2.3.
Yep. And it doesn't have anything to do whether they're getting an NCAA scholarship. This is just for them to be eligible to play.
Very good point. And it doesn't have anything to do with admissions. You know, this is minimum for NCAA just to play the sport in college. You may not meet the minimum to get into the college, you know, by aiming, if this is your goal, if NCAA 16 core courses is your goal, it may not meet the minimum for a university acceptance. So you have to look at those too.
It's two different opportunities that we're looking at, juggling those things. Well, I appreciate this time and all your expertise. And for those of you that tuned in and stayed and asked your questions, we appreciate that a whole lot. And this will be available for replay. So those of you who are still, you know, got questions at the end, you are welcome to reach out to either me at the South Carolina Homeschooling Connection or to Durema and the Pathway Education Group for some consulting. So thank you so much, everybody. I'm going to stop the recording, I think.